Hello and welcome to another episode of Deliberate Living. I'm your host, Holly Priestley, and this week I have Jessee Deal. She is a longtime road lifer and business owner of a fantastic blanket that you have probably heard of if you live in the van community. And I'm really excited to talk to her this week about her experience on the road as part of a couple and solo and building a business and kind of doing all of it and dealing with the changes that life throws at us, and a little bit of pandemic nonsense as well. Hello, Jessee.
Hello, Holly.
Would you mind giving a little bit of your backstory for the listeners who might not know who you are?
Sure. So my name is Jessee Deal, and I've been living in a van since March of 2017. I originally started in a 85 Ford Econoline 150.
Nice.
It was notoriously dubbed the rolling turd. I guess it was brown. It was a very good home. I upgraded to another van about a year into something I could stand in. That was called Colby. And I re-outfitted that with my boyfriend that became my husband during Vanlife. And then in February of this year, I purchased a new rig that I love so much, and I don't have any plans of stopping rolling anytime soon. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. I like hearing the transition of like small, functional, got to make it work. Your first van, like a starter home, like your starter van, and then you got this like bigger, more comfortable van, and then now you have this bigger, more comfortable just for you rig. And I think that's really cool. Would you I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit than what I usually flow with, but would you recommend that kind of process for somebody who's looking into a van, like just kind of start small, see what works? Or would you recommend like go for what you want at the beginning and avoid the move?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would never recommend that anybody get a van that they can't stand in. I'm sorry for people that are taller than 6'2". That may be really difficult for you. But yeah, I hated living in the van at first. And right before we got the second van, actually, we were going on one last trip. The trip was going to be 3 months. We were going to go from Reno up into Canada, down over to New York, and then down the East Coast to Florida, where I'm from.
Wow.
And that was going to be it. And throughout that drive, we were going to find that magical place that we wanted to live. And 2 weeks before we set off on that trip, we came across Colby in the parking lot of a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And when I moved into Colby, that changed everything for me. I had zero issue with living in a van anymore. So my recommendation would be, one, personally, I will never build a van out again.
Mm-hmm.
Myself. It is very difficult. And I also I'm very picky. I want things to be done correctly. So my recommendation for people that are doing new, and all of my friends that have decided to join the van life conveniently in the past couple months, it's been really great.
Yeah.
To get a Class B RV, which is a small RV, means it has all the amenities. It'll have a bathroom, a toilet, and a fridge and a stove, but it's on a van chassis.
Yeah.
So those are like, the airport, like Colby, the original shell of that one, I'm pretty sure was like an airport transporter. So it's a bit wider, but it's, still the same thing that we're all used to driving. So you're not going to look at some big rig and then going on the inside and like re-outfitting it the way that you want it to look. So for me, the fun stuff is like, I'm going to paint the walls. I'm going to pick out my cushion colors. But yeah, like that's the fun part for me, is like making it feel like myself, is not building the cupboard itself. And then having like, an edge that might be crooked, or the screw split the wood. And then I'll stare at it for months and just be like,
yeah.
That's my recommendation, would be to get something that's pre-built and then make it your own. And I'm also super partial to like vintage campers, especially the old school, like the Toyotas. They're so cool looking, and yeah, have everything that you need in them. So
yeah. So
that's my recommendation.
Yeah, I think that there's like some sense of like control that comes with building it yourself. Like if something goes wrong with your electrical, like you put it in so you can kind of read it a little bit better. But at the same time, like I'm not an electrician. I'm not a mechanic. I don't know. I'm not a carpenter. I don't know any of that shit. So everything I'm doing, like when I built out my van or when I like changed out my batteries or anything at all that happens, I have to learn how to do it and then I do it. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's never, when it's the first time you've ever done anything, you're not going to do it right. You know, you're going to have mistakes. You're going to have a crooked edge. You're going to have, you know, things kind of pieced together with like sticks and spit. And it's just going to have to work. So I think there's definite value in that. But also, like, I would be okay with not having to do the whole build out again. I would like your method of buy the shell and then make it pretty. And then
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can kind of figure it out from there.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, when it even like the electrical, the first thing that I did when I got this fan is I took it to Fantastic Westy in Seattle
Mm-hmm.
and we installed solar. I sat with him and watched, but just like you're saying, like, I understand the concepts, but I'm not going to put it together myself. Like, I'm not an electrician and that's dangerous for me. So if something goes wrong with my system, I'm calling him
Yep.
or I'm going to find an electrician near me and be like, hey, like my heater, although my heater did go out and I am going to troubleshoot that one myself.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I already know what's wrong with it. I'm just waiting for the parts. And I'm very proud of myself for taking this one on. But
That's awesome.
that's the only system I'll probably really fuck with. Yeah.
So what is the rig that you're in right now?
So this is a 1993 Isuzu Rodeo motorhome,
Okay.
and it came from Japan. So they don't make them here, and in order to bring stuff in from Japan, they have to be 25 years old or more. So this one, even though it's a 93, it's 2 years new to the US. And it essentially sat in somebody's garage in Japan because I bought it with 40,000 original miles on it.
Oh.
And it's a turbo diesel. So it will go to 500,000 miles, maybe a million, hopefully, if I take good care of it, which I have been trying to do. And it gets insane gas mileage. It's like 24 miles a gallon on diesel.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's crazy. I drove up from Denver to Jackson, which is a 10-hour drive, and it cost me $60, and I still had half a tank of gas when I got here.
Oh my word.
Yeah, it's so great. I can't, like, no complaints about it. Yeah. And it's all one fiberglass piece, the camper shell.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really have to, as long as something doesn't happen to the shell itself, like mold won't be an issue. And it's 19 feet. So I just fit in a normal parking spot. It's actually 3 feet shorter than my last van.
That sounds so perfect. And I'm instantly jealous. I thought my van got good gas mileage, and it does for a van, but
what does yours get?
Right now I'm averaging between like 14 and 16 miles per gallon.
Nice.
Which is pretty good for the type of van I have.
Yeah.
If I'm in the city a lot, like when I'm in Denver all the time, I can get down to like 10. You know, just like idling in traffic all the time, and that's super lame. Wouldn't recommend. Trying not to do that very much.
Yeah. Denver's getting really crowded. It's kind of hard.
Absolutely. I lived there for like 7 years before I moved into the van, and it had changed a lot just in those 7 years. And I had friends who, you know, were born and raised there, and I can't even imagine like how quaint the big city of Denver was. And now it's just total madness. Every time I go back, there's like holes where there used to be buildings, and there's buildings where there used to be holes. And it's pretty insane how much it's changing and so rapidly.
That's so true. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. I lived in Denver 10 years ago. Wow. That's crazy to say. Yeah, I lived there for like 2 years, and it was very different than how it is now.
Yeah.
We didn't have traffic. I don't remember traffic in Denver, honestly.
I don't either. I don't remember there being that much. And these days it's like, you know, what used to take me 10 or 15 minutes to drive across, you know, one side of the city to the other is now like a solid 30 minutes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Totally crazy. So Jessee, you've been in rigs for 3 years or so. How do you think that experience has changed for you, like from your first few weeks in the Rolling Turd to now your first few weeks in your brand new, super small and adorable and perfect motorhome?
It's been quite a big change, actually. I started this all off, like I said, with a boyfriend. It didn't start off as like a thing that was going to be forever. It was what we called our first retirement, and we planned on doing it for 1 year. So, yeah, I asked my then boyfriend when we first started dating and things got, we're getting serious. I was like, what is that thing that you want to do before you settle down? And his answer was, I want to live in a van and travel around the US and Canada and Mexico. And I was like, wow, I've never thought about that. Okay, well, let's just make that happen. So we did. And it was like maybe 6-8 months later that we did that. And like I said, after a year, I was done. Like, van life was fun. It was really great going to all these really beautiful places, but I really didn't like not working. I felt very like guilty about not working. We'd saved a bunch of money.
Okay.
What's that?
You saved up a bunch of money and then that's how you plunged into it?
Yeah. I mean, I saved probably like $15,000 before we hit the road, but I also had a rental in Southern California. So that's where we met in Orange County. And I did something kind of shady. I had a rental, and when Ryan and I started dating, we ended up getting another place together because I wouldn't let him hang anything on the walls because I loved the way that my apartment was decorated. And I also was traveling a lot for work. So when I would go on like a 2-week work trip, I would rent out my apartment on Airbnb. And it was a great way to make a few extra $1,000s for getting sent away on work. And then when we started dating and he, expressed that he wanted us to get like our own spot, we did. And I kept that place and rented it full time on Airbnb. And then when we moved into the van, I continued to rent it full time on Airbnb, and I had this amazing housekeeper that would like just receive all the supplies and, let me know if I was low on shampoo, let me know how the guests were when they checked out, like the condition of the place. And I rented that. So that was like the primary source of income. And then, we definitely ran through the savings in about a year plus that. And that was the first year of van life. That was how we financially made it. And then we went to Mexico for 3 months, and it's very cheap in Mexico. So that helped out a lot. And yeah, so the first year was definitely like a lot of traveling and sightseeing and really remote spaces, and a lot of picture taking and, just living that van life dream that you see on Instagram and you're trying to emulate. But I wasn't having so much fun with it. It's hard to be in a couple in a van. It's small space, and I didn't like not working, so I was grumpy a lot, and I just felt guilty all the time. And inevitably, I started working on a project. I really wanted this pillow blanket, so I started working on this project, and I inevitably was able to create it. And once I got that, it like gave me more of a sense of purpose. I was able to, when we would drive to a remote place, we would be able to have a reason to go take these pictures and something to talk about, so that morphed into a little more like we need to be near Wi-Fi. So a lot more city dwelling, not so much nature. And with that came more of a social life. So I was like missing being around people all the time when we were out in the woods in these remote spaces. And it's hard to maintain, friendships from afar when you barely have cell phone reception and you're trying to like be in the moment and enjoy the moment and get off your phone. So with that, I like really found a lot more happiness with 1, working, and 2, being around people. And so then when Ryan and I inevitably split, which originally happened because he took a job that he had to travel for work. So our original split was just him leaving to go to work, and I continued on driving in the van, at which point I started going to van life gatherings. Rest in peace. Van life gatherings.
They'll come back.
We'll never have those again.
They'll be resurrected next year. It'll be fine.
Let's hope. So I went on a van life gathering tour to promote the blankets, and at which point I found community. And so from the beginning, it was remote spaces, empty woods, just me and Ryan. And then now I'm very much more focused on people as opposed to places. I definitely have my places that I like to go. And in winter, I'm very geographically focused, and I'll chase snow to go snowboarding. That's the priority. But in the summertime, it's definitely more about I use my van as a way to spend time with the people that I love, as opposed to how it used to be. It would take me to the places that I loved. Now it's more about getting me to the people and like the community.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. So I'm spending a lot more time in cities. Right now I'm in Jackson. I was camping for a couple days, but right now I'm outside of a friend's house because we need Wi-Fi and showers and, normal life. And yeah.
I kind of love that transition. I like that, that explanation of it. Because it does, a lot of people who, see the lifestyle on Instagram, see the hashtag Vanlife, hashtag blessed. You're always going to an exotic place and taking these wonderful pictures and, like not working and it looks like a dream. And then you actually like get into living in a van, and that's not the reality. And even if that is your lifestyle, you're traveling from beautiful place to take beautiful picture to another beautiful picture. Like you still need something else in life to make you feel connected and make you feel like you're contributing and make you feel like a part of a community and all of that. And I'm a pretty introverted person. I don't need a lot of people, but part of that is because like I do stay in places where I have good cell phone reception or access to Wi-Fi because of my work. And then as a result, I can stay more connected with my friends and family. But if I'm like out in the woods without service for 2, 3, 4, 7 days, I do come back and I'm like, where are my people? I need them.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's definitely a lot different focusing on, having to be near the internet. That is definitely a priority. I have to work, now I have multiple jobs. So I have lots of daily commitments of things that I need to access the internet for. Yeah. And it unfortunately involves our friend Instagram. So I need to maintain connectivity and also be aware of what people are doing and get on top of those, reshare of the stories in time. And so that definitely changes the game on what van life actually looks like. But I'd still, this morning I was amongst a herd of buffalo and staring at the Tetons. And now here I am sitting in a back alley outside of a house. It's, it's a nice balance of I think it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that sounds ideal to me personally. Do you want to talk a little bit more about your blanket company and how you grew that from like one lady in a van just looking for like a specific product that you wanted, and what is it now, and how do you have a team? It's not just one lady. Like how did that all happen? And you did it all from a van. Like there are lots of questions.
Yeah. So I'll be clear. I am not like the financial owner of Voited. Mm-hmm. I did create the brand and the original product, but I am not the financial owner. I do have a little piece of should it ever sell, I'm not like destitute, but I have been getting paid the entire time that I have been working for them, which has been really great because otherwise I never would have been able to actually execute my idea. So what started as me getting very frustrated with my bedding and having to, every day break down my van bed in that tiny little Econoline. I would take 15 minutes to break down the bench seats, fold all my blankets, and then my blankets took up the entire bench seat.
Yep.
So it's like, why did I even do this?
That's my problem.
Yeah, it drove me crazy. I had no cupboards to put my blankets in. It was just an issue. And if I put them somewhere on the floor, then they're dirty. And then, anywho.
Yep. So
I had this jacket. The jacket had its own like stuffable pocket. And so I would sleep with this jacket as a pillow and like cuddle with it. And if I got cold, I would put it on in the middle of the night. And I was like, why don't my blankets just do this? Like, this is stupid. My blankets should be a throw pillow. And that way they're aesthetically functional while they're sitting on the van bed and they're not just like taking up space uselessly. Like that would be really easy to do. And I was like, yeah, I have this sleeping bag. I have this blanket. I've got pillows. Why can't this all just be like one thing instead of taking up the entirety of my van? Because this is just really annoying. So when I left my corporate job and moved into the van, my boss and I did like an ultimate mic drop maneuver and quit together right as we moved into our old office. And it was just like this big thing, but he and I kept in touch and would bounce ideas off each other. And he really wanted to start a jacket company. So he asked me if I would help him with the digital marketing of that. And so I jumped on board. We went to England to start this jacket company and met with a designer, and we had this line all set up. And I still wanted this freaking blanket. I just want to make a blanket that is functional and not going to get stained. That's another big thing. My blankets, we were throwing them away constantly. And I felt so guilty about all the waste of my blankets because we would take it outside to have like a picnic or just like sit outside because we're cold and in the camp chair, grab the blanket. And now we have sticks and everything stuck to it and it's dirty. So we go out to England and I'm just still pushing for this blanket. I'm like, can we please just make this blanket? And the guy that owns the factory is there with us. And he's like, we can't do that. We can't flip the blanket into a pillow. Like, it's just not possible. And I'm like, yes, it is. It's freaking possible. So I come back to Colorado at the time. I was in Vail. Come back to Colorado, and I called up a technical designer friend of mine, and I was like, this is what I want. Can you help me create the digital drawing so I can send it to the factory because I know that this is possible? And she's like, oh yeah, we could do that. No problem. And I was like, sick. So I sat with her for a few days, and we came up with the technical drawing, sent it off to the factory. And meanwhile, everything with the designer and the jackets was like falling apart. The designer that we were going to work with, he was just not very easy to work with. And we realized pretty quickly into the project that it just was not what we, at least Frank, my partner at the time, it wasn't what he was looking for. So that started falling apart, but he was like, dude, I need to start something. Like we have, the investment is here. We need to make a product now. What do we do? And I was like, stop telling me we can't do the blanket and let's just make the blanket. He's like, that's not a big enough story. And I'm like, bullshit. The blanket is a big enough story, which we now have more products, which is great. And we have jackets and we're coming out with a bunch more stuff. But like, I just really believed in this blanket. And I was like, there's a whole community of people at the time in Europe where he lives. Vanlife was just starting to like kind of come onto the radar, you know. It wasn't a thing yet like it is here now, or even close to how it was here then. And it was still pretty small, like the whole van life then, but I was like, just, this is a thing, I'm telling you, it's a growing, like, it's the only way that us young people can own property, a lot of us, you know, or have a house or even survive. Because in California, I was paying half of my pretty happy salary on rent. Like, it's insane. Anyways, so I convinced him. We gave it a try. I put together a Kickstarter and we killed it. And we sold out in the Kickstarter. And now we have what's Voited. Yeah.
I love it. I think that's incredible.
And so I was able to create my thing. And it makes me very happy every day, especially when my heater broke and I was under 3 Voited blankets last night.
Yeah.
20 degrees.
Yeah. I mean, my van now is similar, although slightly different, obviously, to your Econoline that you started in. But I have the exact same problems. Like, I have a sleeping bag and I have a bunch of blankets and I've got a couple of pillows. And so it's like, these are my inside blankets and these are my outside blankets and these are the dog blankets. But like, if you have a dog in a van, it doesn't fucking matter. Her hair's getting everywhere anyway.
Oh, totally.
But like, yeah, one product that can do all the things. And then, you know, I want to put my bed into a table, but then I have to move all this shit. Like, it's just, I mean, I think that's how that particular way of like having a personal problem and then solving it is how a lot of successful businesses get started, because like that which is most personal is most universal, right? So you have this personal problem for you, but you're not the only one who has that problem. And I bet people who don't even live in vans have Voited blankets now. People who live in houses.
That's the thing. When I had my house, like, blankets have always been my thing. My mom's a seamstress. And so when I was a kid, not even as a kid, when I became an adult and she was like, what do you want for your birthday? And I could never think of anything. I'd be like, well, just make me a blanket. And she like monograms my name into it and we'll put the year. And so I have tons of throw blankets because I just like them. Thanks, Mom. But in my last apartment, I had the blanket basket. I don't know if you had one of these, but right next to the sofa was a basket full of blankets that was just taking up space on the floor. So they're super great because you leave it on the sofa as a throw pillow, and then when you're ready to like snuggle in, you just unzip it and you have your blanket. And that's
I
that.
I love it, and obviously, I'm going to link to all of this stuff in the show notes and everything, so people can come find it. Um,
Totally.
but yeah, I mean, it sounds. I love that like product development and business growth story. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life and a freelancer forever, and I really like hearing other people's like business development stories. And I think that that particular one, I mean, you didn't necessarily have the means, the investment, the factory, the connections. But you had a big idea and you had people who were willing to help. And then, you know, you got told no over and over and over again. But then, you know, it just, you keep trying and you don't give up. And if you know it's a good idea and it's, you know, it's like something that the world needs, you keep doing
Yeah.
it. And eventually, probably, you know, everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to. And I think that's true of, you know, living in a van, starting a business, having a relationship, going skiing when you live in a van, which my van does not do snow or cold weather at all. So it sounds horrendous to me, but you can make it work.
That is another thing that I didn't mention about this van, which is actually why I got it, is it is 4-wheel drive.
That was my next question was how are you going to do that in your rig? But it's 4-wheel drive. Do you have like knobby tires and like chains and
Not yet. I'll get them right before winter, so they're super fresh when the snow is actually coming. But yeah, I was gonna put a lift kit on it, honestly, and get like
yeah.
31-inch tires, I think was what I was going for. But I don't know. I'm kind of going back and forth. Some people are telling me that it'll make it top heavy
Ooh.
and it might tip easier, which is like the opposite of why I would want to do that. So
Yeah.
I have to think through that. Anyways, but yeah, back to what we were saying. I do firmly believe that everything happens for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even if a project, like say, you know, for anybody that's listening and you're working on something and maybe it doesn't work out because things don't work out.
Yep.
And it definitely like that happens a lot. And there's a reason that happened. And it's not a failure on your part. There's something you're meant to learn through that process, you know? So even with Voited, I mean, there's been so many things I would have done differently. However, it is what it is. And it's exactly like you said, how it's supposed to be. And the journey that's got me here, I've learned so much. You know, like I said, I don't actually own this company, but I was able to start a company and be 100% neck deep in all of the things that were involved in. And I've learned so much more than I ever would have known otherwise. You know, before I was in project management and digital marketing, and, you know, I'm really great at putting together an SOP, but now, shoot, give me a P&L, I'll dissect it. I know exactly what I'm looking at, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been very interesting.
I think that's awesome. You mentioned earlier that you have like multiple jobs that you're doing now, and you get to kind of travel around and meet up with people, but then also like do your work on the road, or at least travel to where you do your work. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what those jobs are? And, you know, did any of them come from having the experiences of helping start Voited, or how do you sustain life on the road, etc.?
Yes. So for other jobs, I help companies start and manage social media. So I definitely focus on, well, I'm trying to move away from social media and what it has turned into. And this has been something that's developed over not just working with Voited and developing Voited Social, but I've worked with other brands in the past. And I still had a couple brands, even when I say I wasn't working, I always had 2 brands that I was helping do their social media. So, but that's that's easy and it's not that interesting or purposeful. So, yeah, so I still help manage a few different brands, Instagrams, but I'm really moving away from that and into what has become a really booming market, which is I'm consulting on building affiliate programs for brands.
That's
So
awesome.
it's a bit different than our, posting things on social media. It's really connecting the dots between the people that are active participants on social media, potential customers, and making them not only customers, but representatives of the brands and the companies and helping push sales. Because with COVID and everything that's happening, retail is crumbling.
Yeah.
And a lot of stores aren't opening back up. And a lot of brands, I mean, missed out on 2 seasons of goods to sell because the stores were closed. So there's a lot of need for, jumping in even deeper into digital marketing for some of these older brands. So I've been helping some different companies put together their affiliate marketing programs and bridge the gap between what is an affiliate, because there's like affiliate, which is bloggers. People typically think of like bloggers or YouTubers have their affiliate accounts, but it's not something that like an Instagram influencer thinks of. And it's really interesting because there's a whole nother side of that too that I've been working on, which is helping influencers actually make money.
Yeah.
And because what I've learned in this whole, I've not all sides of it, right? Like I'm paying influencers to take pictures for us. I'm paying them to promote for us. I'm getting paid by brands to promote stuff. And at the same time, I'm building my own affiliate programs, my own personal brand, just to like really understand what the potential upside is for these companies, right? Like how much do I need to put in as an influencer with a small following to be able to drive some actual sales? So what I learned pretty quickly with Voited was that paying an influencer $500 to make a post isn't worth it. So for anyone that's listening and thinks that they're going to be this amazing influencer and they want to get paid to make posts, brands are catching on that actually doesn't sell products, but there are ways to sell products as an influencer or an Instagrammer, you know, just someone on Instagram. And it takes work on both sides, but you make even more money at setting up a correct affiliate program as an influencer than you'll ever make in that $500 on a one-off post that disappears, because in that one post, you're having to work every time you make that post.
Yeah.
And what happens with affiliate programs is you're making passive income. If you set it up correctly and you have a cool blog, or, you know, you have all your links and bios set up on your Instagram channel and people are looking through your old posts, those things aren't actually dying. You're still making money off of things that you created before. So long-windedly, I work deeply in affiliate marketing. I help people like figure out how to make money, and then I help brands figure out how to bridge the gap between what they think of as affiliate people and ambassadors, right? Yeah. So it's kind of bringing it all into one and making logic of it and making everyone happy, in a sense that you're not just paying someone $500 to make a post that literally generated sale of one $80 blanket. And you can see how that doesn't really like add up. So yeah. So yeah, it has kind of stemmed from stuff that I've done with Voited and stuff that I've done in the past. And really, Holly, it's just being resourceful. You know, I've never had the choice to like lean on anybody should things get tough.
Yeah.
I can't call mom and dad and say, hey, can you guys float me? So I've just never really had a choice, and just kind of like figured out what it is that's needed and that I can do without having to go into an office. But I won't lie, I'm not against, should I ever have to go back to work, I'll go back to work. I'll go back into an office if there's a good offer there and a really interesting company wants to work with me. That's sweet, you know, and I'll probably still live in my van.
I'm the same way. I think that's like, I would go back into an office, but it would really have to be the right company, the right vibe, the right work, the right money, the right everything. But yeah, I do a lot of work with brands as far as like helping them like build their engagement and like build like an authentic platform and foundation and all of that. And I'm with you on the affiliate influencer, YouTuber, blogger, Instagrammer, TikTok, new thing. I'm not really on it, but I just don't have the bandwidth for it. But I know that's like the next thing. And it's a lot of work. And I do think that, especially in the hashtag Vanlife, hashtag blessed community, that, you know, people will think like, oh, all these van lifers are going out and like just making money, like making YouTubes and making posts and taking pictures of themselves in bikinis. And like, it's not really realistic. And it's a lot of work. And I mean, it's just, you have to have something else going on at the same time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just about like taking your skills and seeing how they could transfer into something that can be done digitally, you know? Yeah. Someone was commenting on a post I made the other day. He was like, what does he do? He was an underwriter, I feel like, for a loan underwriter. And like, that's totally you're able to do that digitally. And it's like, come on, you don't have to go into an office for that. You can do that 100%. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of opportunity. And especially now, thank you, COVID. And one aspect is that companies are now seeing, one, that it saves a crap load of money if they don't have to bring their employees into an office.
Yes.
And two, if they have good employees, their employees are actually more productive and happier people because they have more freedom.
Yes.
Maybe not happier because COVID was depressing, but is depressing. But yeah. So yeah, I think there's a lot more remote opportunities out there for people. But yeah, I think it's really just like kind of figuring out, for me anyway, it's like figuring out what I really want to, how I want to spend my day, you know?
Yeah.
And then there's a whole other side of it too, like creating content for brands is another thing, but that's something that I feel like everybody wants to do. And it's probably the least fun of it all, to be completely honest. It's the most work, and it's the least paying, you know, brands don't really have that much money to pay out for this stuff. And I think that's the expectation of a lot of people that, you know, see, you know, hashtag Vanlife and see the influencer Vanlife. It's, you develop, the best thing to do if you want to be that person is develop a relationship with the brand. Ask them if they have an affiliate program and figure it out, and like show them that you actually are into the products, you know, and don't just do it for any brand, you know, like just look at what you're actually using. Like that's how, you know, this 686 stuff came about. Like I'm looking at what I'm actually using, and then I reach out to the brand and I'm like, hey, do you guys have an affiliate program? And they're like, oh, we need some you know, and so the conversation starts, and now we have multiple things going on because I'm literally looking around going, okay, I want to promote the things that I use. Yes. I'm not hitting up brands saying, oh, I want free stuff. I'm like, what am I using? What can I talk about? You know, I mean, free stuff is nice though. If it happens, but that doesn't happen. I think a lot of it is just illusion, you know? There are brands that definitely pay, but, and I'm not against paying either. It's just how, you know, I want to see a result personally as a business, you know, person that controls that system. Like I want to see that we're going to get back what we put in. So if I'm going to send you some stuff, I'm happy to send free product for promotion, but I just want to see that it's even going to be effective.
Yeah.
And that they care enough to use it, and then even want to keep promoting it to see how they can make money themselves as an affiliate. But yeah, this is all probably really boring. Sorry.
I find it very interesting. And I could talk to you about this stuff for like hours and hours and hours. Maybe we'll have to meet up face to face and get a beer so we don't bore all the listeners. But
you geek out on internet and affiliate and stats.
I could all day long. I could do that.
Same way. Yep.
So you've mentioned a little bit about like what you think the pros and cons are of at least your experience, like living in a rig and various rigs. The small ones are a big con. Got to be able to stand. That's a big pro. You get to drive around, and now you get to see the people who are important to you and still go to places that you want to go. Are there any additional pros and cons that you can think of this lifestyle in particular?
I mean, yeah, being able to get up and go anywhere at a moment's notice is super great. Like I'm in Jackson right now, and a week ago I had zero plans to be here. I was going to be remodeling this van in my friend's driveway in Denver. But a couple friends came out and they had an opportunity to have like a big group camp out and a bunch of fun toys like boats and side-by-sides. And of course I can do that. And I don't have to pack my suitcase. I can just drive, and I don't have to ask off of work because I can just work around it. And I mean, that to me is the ultimate benefit, ultimate pro. Con, I would say it's devastating when something in your house breaks.
Yes, absolutely.
It's just devastating. But I don't know. I kind of stopped freaking out over the things, you know, like my heater hasn't worked in 2 days and it's been 20 degrees at night. And I honestly, like, I have a place to go stay if I wanted to. And they're like, why aren't you staying in here? And I'm like, because it just is what it is. You know, yeah. Like me and Uggs are going to snuggle underneath the blanket together and we're going to be fine.
Yeah, the worst is when it's something mechanical and then you have to take it to the shop and then you're out a car and a house for however long.
Yeah.
That's the worst. I mean, things are going to break. It's a house. It's a car. Like things always break in your house. Things always break in your car. It's just regular homeowner, car owner maintenance. But when they're the same thing and it has to be in the shop for a day or 2 or 5, then, I mean, hopefully all that stuff happens when you're in a place where you have resources and friends or family, like a network that you can stay with. But yeah, it's devastating. It's heartbreaking. It's just terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally is. I've gotten really good at communicating clearly with my mechanics too,
Oh my
that I
word.
live in my vehicle, and that whatever we're going to do, should it be a big project, let's make that happen and, as quickly as possible, because my most preferred scenario is that I come at the end of the day and I take my van. So I'll go sit
Yeah.
somewhere and work and sit on my computer, likely in their lobby, so they don't forget about me and they get that done.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I try to take it with me if possible. There's only been, I can think of one, maybe 2 times where I've had to get a hotel in 3.5 years. And
Yeah.
it was for 3 days. And it was in Mammoth, so it wasn't that bad. That's the one I can think of. I can't think of another one, but I think there was another. But either way, yeah, mechanics are pretty cool. And then they get really into your rig too. If you're like, oh yeah, I live in it. And I also feel like they take you a little more seriously, in the sense that they'll put a little more care and consideration in checking out something that they may not have checked out originally,
Yeah.
just to make sure you're safe,
Totally. And I
But,
definitely agree with sitting in their lobby. They don't really like having people in their lobby, it seems. So I noticed if I have to do a walk-in, something just happened and I don't have an appointment, like, can you fix this thing? Okay, cool. Do you have someone who can come pick you up? No, I live in that. And they're like, oh, we'll see if we can squeeze you in. And usually within an hour I'm out, because they don't actually want people there.
totally, exactly. Yeah, it's a good trick.
Yeah,
It's totally a good trick.
highly recommend.
Yeah,
Jessee, do you know
absolutely.
what your future plans look like with your brand new rig? Do you have any specific trips on the horizon? Do you have any idea how long you'll be on the road? Any of that?
No, I like to stay pretty fluid. My tentative plans right now are I'm here for a couple weeks, at least another week. I'll go back to Colorado. I really want to paint the walls in this. That was my main goal, was to get my curtains and my walls done. And ideally my floors. We'll see. I want to pay somebody to do that though, because I'm just not that. I've done it once and I want it to be perfect, and I
Yeah.
know my limitations. But I want to get my walls done, and then I have to head to Portland. So I'll be in Oregon and Pacific Northwest through fall. And when the snow starts falling, I'll just chase the snow. And that'll be winter, and I'm really excited. I got the Icon Pass this year, and
Risky.
I think there's 40 something resorts on there now. And so I'll go to whichever Western ones are getting the most snow, and hopefully that we get lots of it, and hopefully the resorts aren't all on reservation systems like they're talking about this year, which would be really a drag. But that's the plans. And for how long I'll be living in a van, until I buy a piece of property that I can park on permanently and plug into. But I will probably still then be living in some sort of vehicle.
I think that sounds amazing. You've definitely dropped a lot of knowledge bombs and inspiration bombs in this episode. Is there any one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who's considering either living in a van or starting a business, in addition to what we've already talked about?
Yeah, I don't let fear get in your way. Fear is natural. Acknowledge your fear of whatever it is. If it's living in a van or going out and starting an idea or approaching somebody and asking for something. I guess something I'm notorious for is a phrase that I say all the time is closed mouths don't get fed. If you want something, ask anybody that can help you to help you. The worst that you're going to hear is no. And you're no worse off than you were before you asked the question. But what's surprising is most often you're going to get yes. And if you allow yourself to sit in the fear of asking the question, then you never would have gotten that yes. And I think that holds true to even van life. I didn't want to live in a van. I had no idea how to live in a van. And I was like, yeah, whatever. It sucks. It sucks. I can go back to my house. And yeah,
I love it.
just don't live in the fear.
I think
Just
that's incredible. Sit in the fear, do it anyway. Don't let the fear hold you down, and ask for the resources and the support that you need or want or are curious about.
Totally. Yeah.
Jessee, where can people follow you on the internet if they want to know more about your story or the blankets or whatever? And I'll link to all of these as well, but just for the audio.
Cool. Cool. I can even set you up with a discount code to share out if you'd like.
I would love that. That would be great.
Cool. So everyone can find me on Instagram. I'm Jessee Deal, JESSEEDEAL. Voited is VOITED, also on Instagram. And yeah, we'll see you there.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in for this episode. I will be sharing details of that discount code as well. If you enjoyed this podcast and got anything out of it, please go ahead and leave a 5-star review or share it with somebody you think needs to hear it. And if you want to support the podcast in other ways, I do have a Venmo and a PayPal that go directly to the support of the podcast. And I hope you guys tune in next week for another excellent episode and get yourself one of these pillow blankets because they are pretty killer. See you next week. Bye. Hey there, just popping in here at the end of the episode to update you on that 20% off coupon code. I will have the link and the code in the show notes, but for those of you listening to this only in the audio version, the code is Holly C. Priestley, HOLLYCPRIESTLEY. Don't forget that second E. It is forgotten all of the time. And that will get you your 20% off coupon at the voited.com website. Thank you very much for listening. Tune in next week. We've reached the end of this episode of Deliberate Living. You can find the show notes and everything we referenced over on my website, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts on YouTube or sign up for email updates every time something new is published. I'll see you next time on Deliberate Living, and until then, keep your life on the DL too.